Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Pull Up Tray Podcast, the podcast that used to cover the number 3 seed Raptors, but now covers a Raptors team that is on the brink of falling back into the play-in. Now 17-13. Things are starting to look a wee little bit hairy. To set the stage for you, they've had the worst offense in basketball for 13 games now. Now that correlates with an injury, yes. It also correlates with other things. We will dive into it. Perhaps the book on the Raptors, The Scout, is out. There's a bunch of things moving a certain way offensively. The Trey that pulls up. I didn't even do it. I'm so wound up from this bad basketball. I'm also a little bit sick. How you doing?
I'm hanging in. I'm hanging in there. It's obviously been like a rough stretch from this team, and I think, and we're gonna cover this later. We saw a team like the Nets, who actually have been trending well, who've been playing a lot better, replicate what other teams have done essentially in a back-to-back night. So we're gonna delve into why this isn't working and what's hurting the team, but something's got to give. You can't continue along the same path and expect for this team to be a play-in team. Maybe that is like health, but we'll see.
So the Nets are 5-3 in their last 8 across the past 13 games. They have a top 3 defense in the NBA. That was the sneaky thing about this Nets team, was that they have wing defenders who will very much bother Ingram and Scottie. And we saw that in their last matchup, actually, although the Raptors managed 119 instead of scoring in the 80s. And it means that the Raptors will become extremely dependent on like Jakob finishing, Emmanuel Quickly's initiation to skirt around their big wing defenders. Emmanuel Quickly had a spurt in this game, but obviously was largely pretty bad. Jakob left the game after like 6 minutes of play. And I think that's where we want to stay with this, because what we're talking about today is, the Raptors, all the things that are bad. We're just going to set it on the table and say what this team is bad at. And the first thing that has to be discussed is like, yeah, they have a good record when Jakob plays. There's one thing we talked about and worried about his back when it was initially announced and all that going on. And Darko had this quote that I don't want to go too hard on Darko because I think he's just falling on the sword for his guy. But he suggests that like it's not a big deal. And Jakob would just need like 2 weeks off and it would be all better if it were the offseason. The Raptors had a stretch from December 9th to, when this episode is released, that is 14 days, and they would have played only 4 games. If you were going to give them 2 weeks off, why not then, if it really could be fixed? Not to mention, man, he's played 1, 2, 3, 4. He just played 6 minutes, his technically 5th game since his rest against the Lakers on December 4th, a very winnable game for the Raptors where they didn't have him. The Raptors have lost, I believe, 5 out of the 6 games that he's played in that stretch. If his back is beyond, like, he can't play, he's a late scratch for however many games. He gets to X and Y. He plays 6 minutes. He looks like he can't move. What are we doing here, man? So as someone who, you had a big reaction when the Raptors traded for Jakob Poeltl. You had a certain reaction when they extended him now the second time. Where are you on the Jakob Poeltl thing?
Very rare times in this franchise where a contract is signed and it's instantly been bad. I think the last time this has happened is DeMar Carroll, where you're like, oof, we were off
You're lying right now, dude. I know there's been a couple contracts where you were like, oh Lord, no.
But that was just my reaction. I'm not a Nostradamus,
Okay.
But on the court, it's been bad immediately. There may be another contract on this team has probably been bad immediately, actually. But I'll stick with Jakob. The fact that this is one, just like a back injury, is usually something that's long term. It kind of manages how you're going to be able to play off and on through an entire time. We've seen it hamper guys like the great LeBron James before. But so to sign this extension, and I obviously I have no idea if they knew his back was as bad as it was, but to sign this extension and have this injury that is probably going to linger the entire time of the deal, is mind blowing. It's put the Raptors in such a dire situation. They go into games now when he can't play where guys like Josh Minot, Luke Garza are having Jamaican, by the way, Josh Minot. But you go into situations where those guys are having career nights, making their night off of the Raptors because they can't rebound. While Scottie is a very good defender at covering ground, there aren't, with him being their main point at the rim. They aren't the greatest in terms of overall defense. So this contract and the situation and the money that they've given to him has put them in such a desperate situation. He's the only center on the roster, and when he has played, he hasn't been that great. It's a trail of bad contracts that have been dished out for this team over a long period of time, but this one has just been bad from literally the tip off of it.
So the funny thing, right, is so Jakob is on for 19.5 this season. It's perfectly fine.
Yeah.
He's a good center when he's healthy. The Raptors obviously were looking at his player option next season because they they always give up player options, always. Never a team option.
Ugh.
And they said, we don't want to be in a tricky position with our center situation, so let's lock them up. And they do so to the tune of 27.3, 29.5, and 27.3. Now, there are minutes played restrictions around that. There are kickers where he can actually earn more money around playoffs. And I think playing 1,400 minutes in the season, that's about 50, 55 games played for him. Listen, the Raptors obviously felt a type of way about being put in a position where they had no center on the roster next year or something, considering they signed Brandon Ingram, considering
Yeah.
all these things. And Sandro plays more like a big forward than he does like a center as well. CMB is not going to play center. Scottie is kind of the only guy that they can nominally put in that position. And then they sign him to, he's got 4 more years. That is tough. He's 30. He's got 4 more years, and we're worried about his back. And listen, it's a long season. He's got a long career ahead of him, at least in guaranteed money. So I hope the back comes
Yes.
around. The thing is, though, they struggle outside of Jakob Poeltl. I just wanted to start there. The Raptors, we mentioned it at the top. They have had the worst offense in the NBA for the past 13 games. And they were the number 2 half court offense at the time of RJ Barrett's injury. They were actually playing the Nets. So in between net game 1 and to net game 2, it goes from 119 points to 81 or 82. And the Raptors are the worst scoring team in the NBA. They are a team that is completely bereft of driving. They've gone from an average team scoring on spot ups to poor. That's like, middle of the pack to bottom 5 in the league. They are a team that is not able to create rotation. They're bottom 5 in the NBA when touching the paint on drives. They're bottom 5 in scoring in the paint on drives. They're just a team that has not been able to muster up defensive rotation. And so what does that mean? That means that secondary guys who aren't great at creating they're just not going to score as much. They're going to be completely dependent on what type of shots are being created. And so if those aren't being created, then the ball just gets swung back around to guys who can create. Emmanuel Quickly, Scottie Barnes, Brandon Ingram, and they just say, please boogie woogie for the love of Christ if you can. And then the Raptors offense is the worst in the NBA. Where are you right now on it?
It's a combination of multiple things. One, I think just from their guard spot, they're just not getting enough. You see the level of teams like even Boston, what Peyton Pritchard is able to do last night, and get blow bys, score over multiple guys that lead to rotations. That's how guys like Hugo Gonzalez running at the rim because he's a threat in terms of the defense. Um, Jamal Shed's had a really good season based on like the improvement he's done year on year, but he isn't a threat in terms of like the overall defense. And I think you're seeing in some sort of sense like teams kind of realize it's the Rondo effect. On these drives, he's looking to pass constantly, which is why turnovers are going up. They aren't trying to defend him at the rim. And with Emmanuel quickly, there isn't enough creation in terms of him being able to get downhill or him even being a 3-point threat off the dribble that's creating enough rotations. So teams like similar to the beginning of the year are sitting back show and they're asking the Raptors to show that they can shoot. At the beginning of the season, they were hitting a ton of these shots. That's sort of come back to earth, which we talked about. I think the biggest concern now is that teams are aggressively helping at the nail and helping on these drives. You're seeing both Bi and Scottie having to try to maneuver and try to probe through multiple defenders, which Bi has the skill and talent to do so. But what you've seen from a guy like Scottie is that you're seeing less shot attempts because those shots aren't available, and also just worse efficiency because more of these shots are turning into jumpers. So the entire team, the hierarchy has been thrown off, and teams have seen that the Raptors don't have enough shooting talent to warrant playing higher on their defense.
So a big thing that's happened, as you mentioned, there's gap help. But the funny thing is that like the Raptors are bottom 5 in the NBA in seeing help on their drives. And that doesn't necessarily mean that like there's no help there. This
Yeah.
is measuring movement to help. Teams are just kind of like their shell has been shrinking over time.
Hmm.
And so it's not so much like this big help rotation over, but just that slow creeping inwards and that claustrophobia that guys are seeing, and especially with like Ingram, who has been, I think, inventive and tremendous scoring the ball over this stretch. The big difference here is you see the Raptors, they go on that 15-0 run, and it's Emmanuel Quickly. Everything is
Yep.
Emmanuel Quickly in that run. It's his
Yep.
shot making, it's his gravity to bring two guys up to the level and to play make downhill. It's getting, a step towards the paint and going out to the corner to Grady. It's all these things, and that's what an offense needs. Brandon Ingram, for all of his great shot making, is making difficult shots because he's not getting to super dangerous spots on the floor. And Brandon Ingram is not changing the shape of the defense so much as he is occupying their most talented defender. And there's value in that. And he's still
Hmm.
scoring efficiently. That's a lot of value right there. But when Ingram goes on a run, the Raptors aren't like torrid. He's simply keeping them afloat. When Quickly starts to give them production, then you look like, oh, the offense is humming. It's a lead guard. It's a bring up ball handler, moving them through actions. Multiple guys are scoring. And Quickly has not been able to do that with, I think, enough consistency whatsoever. The podcast I just did with Jack, our pal from across the pond, and he
Hmm.
says, to quote him, I need more from my lead guard. And it's true.
100%.
I the assist stuff, I don't the level to which I don't care. The level to which I don't care. Listen, is Scottie Barnes a less talented playmaker, a worse playmaker than Manuel Quickly? You go poll everybody in the NBA and see what comes back. Why does
Yep.
one guy have so many more assists and less turnovers? Is Jamal Shed a more talented playmaker? I don't think so. These guys are put in positions where they make reads that are scripted, where Darko's pen is there. And the Raptors, I would like to see their I'd like to see the point guards have more turnovers because it would mean that they're trying something.
Hmm.
Their possessions are so rote, so one note, so uninspired of just the ball sticking above the break, moving the ball on, asking people to do it elsewhere, and just like assists aren't an indicator of strong offensive process. We don't live in that world anymore. They are not. And the Raptors guards, sure, they rack up assists, but they were racking up assists when the offense was pinging along, and
Yep.
they're racking up assists now, and it means nothing. It correlates to the offense is no better for it. So, my ask, what do you think is happening there?
It's tough. Their guards aren't creating any rotations, and because of that, they're stopping short at the rim, and then feeding that either back to Sandro, Jakob, Scottie, and they're still playing right around the free throw line extended the entire time. And what you've kind of seen, because there are guys on the team that I guess have some like shooting talent, some shooting pedigree, guys like Grady, guys like Jameson, Jacoby, Ochai. Those guys haven't shot the ball well at all, also to warrant the defense even guarding these guys. But I think the biggest key in some of that run, you see they played their best shooting lineup in that run. They had quickly quickly battle Grady, Sandra, all those guys on the court. It allowed Quickly to play a lot more free. Their current lineup and the way that they play, especially within like Darko's system, asks so much of their point guard to handle the ball and to get the teams in actions. And the only other times you really see role players get involved are through like scripted like actions and plays. Like Quickly gets the ball going downhill. Ochai dives for the lob. That's a set play that happens, but nothing in flow is ever happening that helps other guys get involved. And now you're predicated on Scottie Barnes, Brandon Ingram having big nights in order for them to score. One of them doesn't play fairly well. They scored 86 points. No, 81 points.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
So the numbers for this last game is that Ingram 19 points on 18
Yeah.
shots, 3 assists to 3 turnovers. Scottie was 6 points on 10 shots, 1 assist to 3 turnovers. So the question here really is, do you think that the Raptors, this is a question to listeners in the comments. I'm really interested what people think. Do you think that the Raptors offense currently reflects playmaking talent? Or do we think we're in a little bit of like dogma of style or dogma of limitations? And so
Mhm.
the Raptors, they seem really boxed in. And obviously, when RJ was there, all these things were ticking, and he's not responsible for all of it, but he helps them escape the box a little bit.
Yep.
He helps them exist outside of that. He changes matchups. He changes schematics a little bit. And I'm so curious to see what happens when RJ steps back into this lineup because he's not an MVP candidate, but the current like data would suggest that he has such an outsized impact, and not even beyond the data, like the scouting reports and would suggest he has such an outsized impact on the offense because of when he was there and when he wasn't. You know,
Yep.
because we can look at the Raptors 1-4 start that RJ was there for. And then I have all the stats. I haven't gotten to write the defense piece yet because they haven't been good enough to actually write a big piece. I'm accumulating quotes from 17 different head coaches around the NBA because I've been sitting on it for so long. But we know the Raptors made very distinct changes defensively to what they were doing and then started playing better defense. They don't have distinct offensive changes they're doing. They have distinct offensive changes that they can't control for. This is not like schematics. These are
Yep.
limitations are finding them. And can RJ solve that to this degree? No way,
Yeah.
man. I feel like it's beyond the
It's
pale.
No, it's tough because in the games that RJ did play, they were shooting the ball fairly well as well. So I think him in the lineup and their shooting coming back to normal is also like sort of is that correlation causation? Who knows heading into games? But the one thing that you can predict that RJ is going to help is that he's going to create rotations and he's going to also be another pick and roll threat that you can ask to be a playmaker, and hopefully that opens things up for other guys across the board. And I think right now we're seeing sort of the we're seeing some of the bad habits from Scottie that we saw last year when he was asked for more usage. I think when RJ left the lineup, we saw him rise to the occasion, and some of his scoring was a lot better. His driving seemed to tick up, but as teams' shell has gotten tighter, like you spoke about, he hasn't been able to navigate that at all, and he also isn't getting any of these looks like spoon fed to him because their guard play just isn't good enough. And I think everything leads back to do they have the right starting guard for this team to get to where they want to be? Honestly,
Yeah. It's tough. So here's some numbers. Since RJ's injury, the Raptors have registered 0 above average free throw rate games. 0. When I told you that the Raptors are bottom 3 in touching the paint on drives and bottom 5 in seeing help on drives, guess what? When you don't touch the paint, you don't create rotation. When you're not a threat to drive, you don't create help. So they're not creating any big rotations where guys foul. They're not putting teams out of their shell. They're never making teams uncomfortable defensively. And part of that is because role players aren't making enough shots, but part of that is the stars of this team are doing a
Mhm.
very poor job of knifing into the middle. And even when they do knife middle, it's so predictable for the defense that they're quite frankly already sitting there in a perfectly legal stance to guard them. When it was with RJ, the majority of their games had an above average free throw rate. And when I tell you, like, the Raptors are last by a mile in free throw rate in these 13 games without RJ. Of course, they're also like really terrible when it comes to effective field goal percentage. Yes. And RJ isn't responsible for all of this, but it's that cascading effect of just like, you don't have a guy who works off the ball who's going to come in and touch the paint. Grady Dick, Jacoby Walter, Ochai Abaji, Jameson Battle, whoever, none of these guys are driving closeouts and drawing fouls. And these guys aren't hitting threes at a high enough rate
Yep.
either. It has just been a true truck through the mud, just mucking it up on the way to mediocrity. It has been, it's been a terrible watch. And honestly,
Yeah.
like the one game the one game where they actually shoot the ball like passively well is when Boston played like 44 possessions of zone. So you have to shoot threes. You prep yourself for it, and then you come out at like a whopping 36% or something. Do you
Yeah.
like zone is not successful at the NBA level, man.
You shouldn't be.
But like by the numbers, it isn't
Yeah.
because your NBA players hit the shot, brother. And the Raptors, they just when you throw zone, it is meant to do one thing, to shake things up and steal like 3 or 4 possessions if you can. The fact that they lost a game where they saw 43 or 44 possessions of zone, oh my days. It's an incredible indictment on what's been happening. And the solve doesn't seem to sit with Scottie because again, I think that when people look at Scottie and his effort level, yes, you can see the effort is a little bit dwindled, but he has less effort because I don't think he knows how he's supposed to attack a team like the
Mhm.
Nets, who is very comfortable throwing length and size at him. Now, does he turn down a couple drives that maybe he should have gone to? Probably, but he feels out of the game because he isn't a vaunted offensive player with a limitless amount of counters. He's not Peyton Pritchard, apparently, who can,
Jesus.
can do
Oh
anything
my
under the sun.
god.
It's just, I it's tough, man. The offense
Yeah.
is like to go from watching an offense that was humming, dude, humming,
Mhm.
to the worst, and it's not close. They've been the worst with a bullet. I mean, I tell you what, man.
I think from this stretch you do see like the clear needs, and if the team is going to level up and get to where they want to be, how they need to make those changes. I think it's very clear, and I've been very optimistic since they traded LG Anunoby on IQ. I will say I was more optimistic on RJ, but I think it's clear to say that this has not worked out to the level that the Raptors thought, and probably to the level that he thought. In with the BI trade, like things have allowed him to be more effective. You're seeing his 3-point volume like increase from game to game, but the I think the needs from a starting guard is so much higher now. You need to be able to, and getting assists isn't necessarily conducting offense. You need to be able to manipulate the defense that you're playing with, especially in the system that Darko asked their point guard to maintain the large majority of their touches and how they initiate things. He hasn't proven that he's been able to be better than the two guard that played off of Jalen Brunson. And I think I don't think it's an overreaction. I think that it's come to a point where they need to assess how do they get a better guard in that situation so they can make things better for everyone else around them. I think that's fair to say.
Yeah. The thing that it keeps coming back to for me, and I know everyone likes to look at assist numbers as an indicator of playmaking. I just listen, the very best playmakers obviously will have big assist numbers. Like there's no way around it. But there is in that middle ground, there's so much room to just collect assists and to just be part of something. And it doesn't, if you're a guard in this Raptors offense, you're just going to get assists.
Yeah.
And the Raptors really, with whatever, in-house numbers they have, whatever they look at, they need to take such a hard, long look at an offense that creates a ton of assists, yes, but has been absolutely brutal in creating
Mhm.
points.
Yeah.
Points. You know, that is the crux of everything because this the Raptors point guards are probably the number one team in the NBA per that position in getting assists. They might even have a high number of like quote unquote rim assists. They might have all this kind of stuff, but this offense, and you have to look at the guys who combine for the highest amount of touches per minute. It's quickly, it's shed. What's going
Yeah.
on? You know? And quickly, I mean, he had a decent run during that 15-0 run. Yeah. He not only is it like you're clearly not an all-star level guard, and there was hope for that upside for many people. I assume the Raptors when they signed him to the extension. It's that the rap like much of the fan base is clamoring for a guard who shoots 36% from the field to replace you in the starting lineup. And I don't agree with that. Like I think Shed,
Yeah, of
if he
course.
was elevated into a starting role, I don't think it would go well at all. But it's just like quickly has to be so much better. And if you're going to argue that like the environment or context isn't friendly for quickly, is that a guy you want to build context friendly for? Does it matter?
Yeah.
Like, would it matter if Quickly can average like 20 and 8 on 58% true shooting and you win 31 games, but he looks better? Like, is this a guy who you massage the offense into like, okay, now Quickly can look good? I don't think so, man, because he is the highest touch. He has the highest amount of touches on this team. He doesn't have gargantuan usage, but he touches the ball a lot. He sees a lot of the ball. I'd like a more inextricable link to better offense. Anyway,
Yeah. It's tough.
oh,
Like
Lord.
even in the run that they made, because I'm sure people are gonna look at the box score and say like he had 17 and 10 today. These guys are shills, but and we may be to be honest, but
Listen,
um
I watched Jamal Shed go 1 for 6 with 10 assists like 6 times this year already, man. Listen, we watched Colin Castleton and Jonathan Mobo collect assists. This offense,
yeah,
it's just
Orlando
running its
Robin,
stuff.
crazy.
Yes.
But you can use the run for an example. It starts off from like a Grady through, and that was created because there was actual rotation in there, and he hit a corner three. A strong NBA offense, that is a regular possession that happens all the time. And in the run that he made, you're seeing getting in transition, hitting threes above the break. Those are threes that are always going to be readily available for him, which are fine. But if you're in a situation where the Raptors aren't getting stops, they they aren't be able to run as fast as they want, you aren't going to get as many opportunities for those type of threes. And those threes, although he did make them, which is great, he's a great shooter. Those aren't creating any points in the future for any teammates. Those are threes that he's going to make, but they aren't getting shots involved for anybody else on the team, which is why you can go through Ochai Agbaji or Jacoby Walter, even Grady, for an example, and the shots that they're getting in from game to game can go from 6 to literally 1, and that's because those shots aren't being created outside, and there's over reliance on some of their bigger guards, which is why on like bench lineups, when drives stop, they're usually going to Sandro because he's one of the best drivers on the team. He's a great shooter, and, and it helps you get into some sort of rotation. But he is like the seventh guy on the sixth guy on the roster, and it's
Mhm.
an over reliance on guys who have been able to score and able to put them in good positions, and you aren't getting it from the spot that is touching the ball the most on the team, which is a problem.
Well, and even the game against Boston, right? So their points per possession ranks in the 22nd percentile of all games this year, 106.7. That's around what their offensive rating has been since over the past 13 games. It's just a little bit lower. It's terrible.
Mhm.
And in that game, Sandro has 24 points. He goes 6 of 8 or 6 of 9 from downtown. And part of why Sandro is open is because he is the point that teams will help from because he's being guarded by a big. But as we mentioned, the Raptors are a bottom 5 team in the NBA at drawing help. So what's happening? And even if they do draw help, if the defense is already cheating there, that means that they're not, the pass is not going out while they're attacking in. the pass starts going and they're immediately running out into a closeout. There's no mismatch of momentum. You're not like reading a defender's momentum and sending them careening the wrong way. It's just static hoops. The Raptors, I don't know. I don't know if
Yeah.
they. I'm very interested to see what everything looks like with RJ back on the roster,
Yeah.
but it feels absolutely insane to sit here and suggest that like, oh yeah, RJ Barrett would be the one who could
Yeah.
fix it.
It's
If
oh
you could hear me right now, I'm stressed. And let me
yeah.
tell you, basketball can be stressful, but your choice of beer doesn't have to be Trevon. Coors Light delivers mountain cold refreshment. That's right. The Pull Up Trade podcast is presented by Coors Light. I tell you what, Coors Light is cold lagered. It is cold filtered. It is cold certified for a smoother finish. We need some smoother finishing in these Raptors games. A lot of points left on the rim. Trey, when Jack was on, he said that he used to see Van Damme in all of the like commercials back
Yep.
across the pond, and I was like, man, I what do you have a favorite Coors Light commercial? Like what sticks in your mind about Coors Light?
Just like this the saying, it was like, I forgot the commercial, like Coors Light, a man's beer. I just would say it all the time. I'm like, it is a man's beer.
Yeah. Hell yeah. For me, as I mentioned before, those daggum blue mountains let you know it's nice and cold. I'm from Saskatchewan. You know, I'm from one
Yeah.
of the northernmost cities in the world, Saskatoon. I know what cold is. And Coors Light, it never gets colder or cooler than Coors Light. Anyway, make sure to celebrate responsibly with Coors Light. And of course, you must be of legal drinking age. You can find Coors Light near you. Visit CoorsLightShop.ca. Thank you to them for presenting the podcast. Trey, is there anything else? Let's talk Scottie. Let's focus in
Yeah.
because he just had a terrible game. And I did sweep it away quickly by identifying him as a more limited offensive player than I think some people think him to be. And that stance has gotten you and I in trouble with commenters on this podcast in the past, many different times. But we went from, hey, he's driving the ball more, he's scoring the ball more as a driver, to, the water looks like it's turned off a little bit.
Yeah.
What's going on in the Scottie side of things for you?
Yeah, I think again, it really depends on what you think this trajectory is supposed to go. If you're looking for this big time score, then it's gone terribly, honestly. Um, the shot making and touch, I think, have still been there across the board, but it hasn't been the best thing about his season is while his touch and shot making has been better, it's been improved. It's also been filtered around mostly easy, efficient shots because they've been able to run out, get easier looks. He's been used as a role man. He's been getting more assisted looks across the board, which is with the shift in him asking to be on the ball and having more um, just usage responsibility as a creator. It hasn't worked. I think you've seen he's been able to score in like quick buckets, whether that's shoulder hook, him being able to knife through sometimes through the nail and trying to get downhill. But overall, I would say he hasn't figured out how to probe defenses when they're trying to take away whatever he's good at. He can score against most guys one on one. They, as Jalen Brown said, he's very strong. People aren't able to cover him with his strength and be able to his ability to move guys, but he isn't advanced enough to manipulate defenses, get blow bys, and get to the spots that he wants to if the defense is trying to take it away.
Yeah.
So I think we're in a space where he needs to get back into position where some of that is being spoon fed to him.
So yeah, paraphrasing Jalen Brown there, by the way. I don't remember it being exactly that. Um, so to your point, this is his highest rim frequency of his career was year two. A down year for him, obviously, but he was shooting 38% of his looks were coming at the rim. That's the highest it's ever been. This year it's 37%, which is up 7% by quite a bit on last year's 30%. He is spending less time in the mid range. He's spending about the same time from three. He's just
Mhm.
translated his game specifically to like more rim attempts. Now, of
Yep.
course, He is also went from being like a really high volume pull up shooter to like a middle of the pack pull up shooter in terms of volume. He is not getting like 74% of his catch and shoot looks are qualified as guarded as opposed to 20% are unguarded. Like he his shot diet used to be a little bit friendlier early on in the season, and he started to have to stretch his legs a little bit more to try and maintain that rim frequency and to
Yeah.
try and keep it, because he's not getting as many looks in the assisted fashion or like this play was made for you fashion. In fact, he's less in transition as well. And so we're seeing some dip there, but it just goes to show that this Raptors team is at its best when you can slide Scottie into that role. And it doesn't mean that his offensive progression is dead on arrival or anything. He's
Mhm.
he's gonna turn 25 soon, probably, right? Or he's 24 right now, I think. And listen, there's a lot of time to develop from 24 onwards, especially the finer details of your driving game and your pull-up game. And as a guy who reads the floor really well, you want to see that there too. But he is clearly overextended trying to handle the offense right now. And so too is Brandon Ingram, and
Yep.
so too is Emmanuel Quickly. The Raptors need somebody to offset this. RJ Barrett was doing a great job of it, but is the ceiling still there for a truly good team, like truly great team? Maybe
Mhm.
not. And so that leaves you with like, as we said when they made the Brandon Ingram trade, this is a trade where they're trying to shoot into the middle so that they can pivot if they need to from a stronger place. They didn't want to
Yep.
be stuck in the rebuilding hell, tanking hell, or anything like that. And they've already won 17 games this season. They're the 5 seed right now. Like tanking is out of the question. Of course, they want to go win some games. They need to be able to offset some of this offensive pressure, some of this load, and they full out. They've had a tough time, man. There's no Drake May on the roster right now, man.
Boy, that boy is special. I tell you, oh boy. Oh man, brings me joy. It's tough. I think with Scotty, acceptance isn't the word. I I think I've come to realization like his impacts and how great he's going to be. He can be a top 20 guy. I can argue he's been a top 25 guy this season just based on the way that he has played and his impact on defense, his playmaking that comes from other places. It doesn't have to be from scoring, even though that's traditionally your best player. That's how it comes. Um, I think I've gotten a strong idea of like how the roster will be best suited in order to allow him to grow. So I think they're in a good spot because you're seeing them play and trying to win, and they have ways that they can pivot in order to get better. Even
So
this season, honestly.
I think a really strong comparison is the Golden State Warriors, actually. And the Golden State Warriors have different strengths than the Raptors do, but
Yeah.
I think that they are kind of in that box the same way that the Raptors are. And obviously, a really great indicator of the Warriors playing great basketball is Draymond Green having like big box score impact and getting to do a lot of things, because it means things are being facilitated elsewhere. And he's like the perfect like straw stirring in there. But and obviously Scottie is much more talented an offensive player than,
Yeah.
Draymond has ever been or will ever be. But when it comes to like Steph, Jimmy, and Draymond, and looking for down the roster guys who can provide impact, and also the limitations of Steph as an initiator, the
Mhm.
limitations of Jimmy as like a guy who gives you massive volume in and game out, and the limitations of Draymond if there's not advantages to work off of and make sweet music with, then you look at a team that gets like stuck really easy. And then
Yeah.
when things start to get going, then everything moves together, everything works really well, it's melodic. And the Raptors, they need in the future or now or whenever, they need somebody to help them get unstuck. And Brandon Ingram has done a really good job of hitting shots out of the mud, but
Yep.
they do need someone to either develop, they need to make a trade, or something. Somebody needs to come back and change things drastically so that they're no longer in that mud. And when they are for a short amount of time, Brandon Ingram is very important. and guys can keep punching up and taking chances at it. But it's just been, listen, the Raptors, they are looking very much the part, or they're actually the 6th seed right now. They look very much the part of, like, they were never in the contender status, but they
Yeah,
look very much the
agreed.
part of pretenders even in the middle right now. Because
Yeah.
when we were all excited, it was that things looked good and the numbers loved them. Things look bad and the numbers hate them lately, and I think rightfully so. Is there
Yeah.
anything you want to say before we get out of here?
It's a marathon. It's it these this has been a tough stretch. I would say today was today was by far the worst loss of the season. You
Oh, yeah.
saw a team. When I heard the broadcast say we need to steal the non-MPJ minutes, I realized we were truly in hell because he was
Noah
the best.
Clowney hit 4 threes.
He was the best. He was the best player on the floor tonight, and with a team that, like, I know Jakob didn't play, and they're missing 2 of their 3 starters, but this isn't a team where the game should really be close. You should be able to win those games. They should have beat Boston, honestly. Luke Garza, I don't care how much bigger Luke Garza is than us. You can't lose games like that. I think the way things have been sliding, the Raptors are starting to lose games that they should be winning, even if you go into the season and say, hey, we can't punch up and beat the Knicks on any given night. Maybe if we shoot the ball well, you need to be able to beat those teams in the middle that are staying with us. That allows you to have that wiggle room to lose against some of the better teams in the league.
See, the funny thing is, right? Like, I had that tweet about Luca Garza, and I called him Luke. That is the level of, like, you can't lose to Luca Garza. Is that, like, I called him Luke Garza and you called him Luke Garza. We're not even calling him by the right name. You know what I mean? Like, dude, across 4 games prior to the Raptors, he plays like 30 minutes. He scores 4 points. Okay, man. Then he comes in against the Raptors. He goes 12 and 10. What are we doing?
Oh,
He had 9 offensive rebounds. Surely, like, it's that the Raptors, for a portion this season, they had the marriage of effort and talent and execution, and right now they're not occupying any of those roles. It's tough, man. Anyway,
yeah.
I'll let you get back to a very important Patriots game, that Sunday night football. Thank you for doing an early recording with me. We'll be back on the 23rd after the game to talk, or whenever. Anyway, all right. From myself and Trey, thanks for tuning in with us, listening to us whinge about all the Raptors' problems. You can like, comment, subscribe, hype, all that good stuff. Have a happy holidays, however you take them in. Or if you don't even take them in at all, just enjoy your week. Anyway, thank you, everyone. Thank you very much for tuning in, whether you got into this in the morning or at night. Have a blessed day, and goodbye.